Hey guys, it's CL, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I make brand new Critical Role recaps every Monday at noon, and would be happy to have you join the party. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe, and hit the Bertrand bell to be notified of future videos. Now, without further ado, let's discuss the 29th episode of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. First off, I want to apologize if my voice sounds a little weird or off. I was just at Gen Con 2022, and apparently 4 days of nonstop gaming and fun can take a toll on a person. Now, I also hate to be this person, but I encourage you to take the time to watch last week's episode. I know I said that before with episode 28 because it was so combat heavy, but with this one, it's only like 3.5 hours if you cut out the break. And I don't want you to miss out on a lot of plot-relevant detail. And plus, the faces they make when all the unveils happen is really good. But anyway, let us start with the tense moment in the lobby of Imahara Joe's. Dusk, now revealed to be named Yu Saphayed, drops all pretenses as they reveal their mission. It turns out that Birdie and Ollie Calloway have stolen something important from the Unseelie Court. Something to apparently help the greater good. Luckily, we get some more information than that with the help of Imogen digging into Birdie's mind to gather that this could potentially be talked out instead of the full onslaught of attacks that began as Fern and Orem take Birdie's side. It turns out, Fern was born under a Ruidas moon in Taldore. And the Calloways have partnered with good old Ira, the child murderer, to make some sort of contraption to help figure out what's going on. Ollie has a terrifying vision of the red moon leaking into the Feywild and sundering it. Their daughter standing at the center of the havoc. The object stolen, that is potentially part of this contraption, is the Moontide Crown, belonging to a keeper of the moon tides. Because that makes sense. That the artist formerly known as Dusk threatens will be after them should they, not turn themselves in. Birdie shares a little of what they're doing, and that they're going to need a month to get their little project together, as there's an Apogee solstice approaching. Wee woo, wee woo! Okay, if you watched Calamity, we know what that is. If you don't, an Apogee solstice is kind of like a once every couple decades thing that gives enough magic to the world that you can kind of rewrite ley lines, and some really cool rituals and stuff can happen and take place. While her parents want that month, Yu wants to take them now, stating that deadlier assassins than her will be after them. Even Fern offers to go in their place. It was so sad how her mother realized that Fern was no longer a secret, that the changeling had compromised her safety. I don't know, I just had such a hard time with this whole situation. I mean, Birdie couldn't reveal too much while her potential assassin stands in the room. Meanwhile, Yu threatens them with magic mirrors that make shadow people, and the promise that the entire Unseelie Court will be after the Calloways, since they're standing in the way of the improvement of their court. I don't know if I'm being overly sensitive, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but I sort of took Yu's transformation thing a little not well when they transformed into a male and made a jest at Orem. I don't know, I guess the predatoriness was supposed to shed certain lights on the character, but it just kind of rubbed me wrong, and I didn't enjoy that aspect of the fight along with the other transformations. Yu is clearly manipulating them. And while at times I believe that they do have some good intentions, other times the deception just leaks from their lips, it's so obvious. Definitely an interesting turn for the character. Chetney and Laudna end up negotiating a deal though. Yu agrees to leave for 30 days, tracking them and ready to pounce the moment that the deal is up, in order for all the glory that they caught the Calloways and brought the Moontide Crown back. Then they leave. And Mommy Calloway gathers Bell's Hells to an acquaintance of hers named Hondir. Fern shows off the small green gem given to her by Grandma Mori, and FCG identifies it as a weave lens. I guess I'd equate it to a telescope that you can kind of see the DNA of a magical item. Pretty cool. And Birdie hopes that it can discern the true nature of Ruidas, the Red Moon. She goes into detail about what happened, that the dream Papa Ollie had was during a bad trip, lol. But then the ruddy celestial body started to pierce into their realm once or twice, in real life, not the dream, and that scared them. Only Katha is usually present as a boon of the Moonweaver in her domain. But more people saw it than just them, and though they were denied by the Seelie Court as obsessives and conspiracists, they stepped beyond their borders towards the Unseelie side to find that the moon had been magically obscured from their visions, and that the Unseelie, and Otahun Thul, because of course it is, has been using the Moontide Crown for their own weapon of sorts. No idea what it does still, but Otahun's involved and it can't be good. So the Calloways left Fern with Maury, who isn't her real grandmother by the way, but a friend with a domain that they knew wouldn't be messed with. So with Ira and Hondir of the Grim Verity's help to make something using the crown to find out more information about the Apogee Solstice, the Nexus points that are hopefully going to be in the Hellcatch Valley, there's just a lot. Like, remember the Grim Verity? The Loomis Twins organization that was researching celestial bodies? Yeah. We also learned that Hondir is of the AO Seminary, a place where Imogen wants to head to potentially find more information on the Red Moon and her mother. But, speaking of her mother, Hondir and Birdie knew her, saw her 12 years ago, met her through Ruidas and her abilities being Ruidas born, which I guess means Imogen's Ruidas born too, since she has the abilities. The episode closes out with Hondir confiding in them about ancient texts found in Vasselheim from around the founding, mentioning that Ruidas hasn't always been there, and there are two gods that have been wiped from the pantheon itself. With plans to go see Ira's invention that night, Bells heads right off into the distance with Birdie and Hondir in tow. Phew, that was a lot. Like I said, it might be better for you to go watch this one yourself and come back and talk about your theories below. There's a lot of connecting the dots to do. Something's happening with Ruidas. We don't know what, but it could be tied to the upcoming Apogee Solstice. We now can guess that Otahun's little missing stint of time that has been since the Apex Wars was spent in the Feywild working with the Unseelie Court. She knows Imogen through her dreams, so is it possible that them showing up to the Paragon's call again after this whole Ira mess is a bad idea? You mentioned the Gnarl Rock that Laudna broke, and that it's like Fey origin that we did know, but they said that all things come back to that rock, that it has a sort of pool. So does it still have one over Imogen, or did Laudna breaking it break the tether? But did she actually break it? Or was the power absorbed by Delilah? Vecna was from the Shadowfell, which is a mirror of the Feywild. Could she use this Apogee Solstice in some way to bring herself back using the energy tied to the Gnarl Rock? If you remember, in the Legend of Vox Machina, I believe Laudna was brought back during a Ruidas moon. Or she died right before, right? So imagine what would happen during a solstice and the energy from a plane that mirrors Vecna's domain. Chetney is close to the moon through his lycanthropy. Hondir mentioned visiting the jungles outside of Eos when his house was attacked. So that's the very same jungle that the Gorgine are from. Could they be connected to all this Grim Verity stuff too? The Shadow People, who made an attempt on Keyleth's life. Are they Otahun's people that Imogen sees in her dreams sometimes? Are they the folks that live and use Hand Mirror that are from the Feywild and the Unseelie Court? Are they one and the same? Hondir didn't seem familiar with Keyleth, so they weren't after her, were they? It was a different mark. I mean, Will, Orm's husband, died. Could it have been him that was secretly a part of the Grim Verity this whole time? I mean, Orm does have moon tattoos. Okay, I'm thinking I'm just pulling at straws at this point. Fern learned a lot this episode, and I just wish she said more. I feel like she's a very internalized processor. She just got her mom back and learned Maury isn't her grandmother, and that the cards that were from her parents were not actually from her parents, and that the 100 years that passed for her maybe could have been Maury's fault. The pessimist in me wonders if Maury fell in love with the idea of being a mother figure to Fern and just wanted to raise her herself. Speeding up time and allowing her to grow and never get the chance to be raised by her real parents? What do you think of her being Ruidas born? Are they all Ruidas born? I mean, Belle's hells have some weird connections with each other. They can't be coincidences. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Will this campaign be a Chroma Conclave, like part 2 of sorts? Like, maybe we watch the remainder of the story play out in kind of a post-apocalyptic situation. Something about the storyline and how it all interweaves feels a little too out of their pay grade for level 7. Tell me what you guys think. I'm so curious about this episode, and there was so much densely packed into such a short amount of time. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe and like the video. And check out my recaps of Campaign 3 on my channel, or my album Scorpio. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there. Good day, my friends.